I traveled back to 10 years ago to the day when my husband confessed his love to me. I was overjoyed in my heart. Finally, I got the chance. This time I must make Ryan marry a rich, beautiful girl and reach the peak of his life. I traveled back to 10 years ago to that afternoon in high school when Ryan confessed his love to me. I knelt down to thank God. Ivy, am willing to have a balanced diet of meat and vegetables in my life. Oh no, all vegetarian. Thank you for your great kindness. My eyes were shining brightly as I stared firmly at Ryan, who was concentrating on reading the questions about ALS. He really deserved to be my husband. He even looked so good when reading the questions. This was the campus limited edition husband. It would be a loss to take my eyes off him for even a second. Ryan, also known as Comrade Ryan, was a famous male god on campus, my high school deskmate, and childhood sweetheart. We spent our primary school, junior high school, and high school years happily together and got married in the future. He was good at everything. He had a cold and noble appearance, excellent grades, and was an all-rounder. Except that he usually talked less and seemed a bit aloof, he had no flaws at all. He was definitely a heartthrob. Unfortunately, in my previous life, I don't know why, but he happened to fall in love with me and accidentally got the marriage certificate. In the 10 years, we only had 3 happy years. The later years could only be described as bad. In this life, I must make Comrade Ryan happy. I stared at Ryan eagerly for a long time. Ryan seemed to sense something and slowly turned his head. His eyes just met mine. With a bang, he suddenly fell off the chair. Me, no way. Was my gaze that scary? I'm a bit angry now. According to my memory, after class today, when only Ryan and I were on duty, he would confess his love to me affectionately. He would kneel on one knee with flowers in his hands and say affectionately, "Baby Ivy, be with me. I really love you so much," or something like that. It was impossible for this aloof old school guy to do that. When we were wiping the blackboard together, he just said calmly and casually on the surface, "Ivy, I like you. Would you consider me?" If I hadn't seen his secretly clenched hands, his red ears on both sides, and the rag that he was gripping tightly in dripping water, I might have thought he was just asking me, "Ivy, have you eaten?" Comrade Ryan, you're really something for confessing your love in such a pure and indifferent way. I always thought that I was the only one unrequitedly in love with him. It turned out that it was a mutual affection. But this time, I won't let the plot develop smoothly. I'm going to tear up the campus love script with Comrade Ryan and let Comrade Ryan marry a rich, beautiful girl and reach the peak of his life. After all, there would be no good result if Comrade Ryan was with me. Ivy, I am a lovely girl who is loved by everyone and makes everything around her more beautiful. I'm positive, sunny, healthy, and upward. 3 years after marrying Comrade Ryan, I was diagnosed with an inherited and elegant terminal illness, ALS. I don't know if it has something to do with my father whom I've never met. To put it simply, the muscles will gradually atrophy and then life will be lost step by step. I was shocked when I got the diagnosis. I always thought that marrying such a good husband as Ryan couldn't be at the cost of my lifespan, right? It turned out that it might be true. I was originally worried about the 7-year itch with Comrade Ryan. Well, now it's uncertain whether I could live until the 7th year with Comrade Ryan. I lit a candle for myself. Fortunately, thanks to Comrade Ryan's meticulous care and my unremitting efforts, I lived until the 10th year of my marriage with Comrade Ryan. Then I stumbled at the biggest obstacle since ancient times, childbirth. There was nothing I could do. In the past few years since my physical condition had been getting worse, it was even more obvious that Comrade Ryan was forcing a smile. I was really afraid that after I passed away, he might be so sad that he would follow me. Anyway, I was going to die sooner or later, so I wanted to try my best to leave him a child. As a result, I overestimated myself. I lit a candle for myself again. The past is gloomy and can't be chased back, but the future is bright. Fortunately, God had mercy on me and gave me the opportunity to make it up to Comrade Ryan. I must strangle the little flame of love in the cradle before it burns brightly and scatter the ashes. The means and methods of my operation are open to discussion, but I have to get through the current situation first. In the empty classroom, only Ryan and I were left again. In order to avoid the plot of confession, I immediately moved away from the podium and directly drove Ryan to wipe the blackboard alone. I quietly watched Ryan's figure standing in front of the blackboard. He was tall, straight, and slender. Alas, he even looked like a painting when wiping the blackboard. Unexpectedly, Ryan was quick at his work. He wiped the blackboard clean in a few seconds and then turned around to get the broom. I hurriedly moved to the other side of the classroom to keep a distance from him and pretended to be sweeping the floor wholeheartedly. While sweeping, a pair of white shoes appeared in front of me. Oh, it was Ryan at a glance. I pretended not to see and turned around to run away, but was stopped by Ryan's faint "Ivy." I raised my head reluctantly and just met Ryan's face that was so good-looking that it made people jealous. He was about to open his mouth, and my pupils dilated in shock. "Oh, the sky is so beautiful today. Don't you think so, Comrade Ryan? Ryan looked in the direction I pointed. It was just an ordinary dusk sky. But he still gave me face and said, politely. He was about to open his mouth again, and my pupils dilated in shock again. Oh, the floor is swept so clean. Don't you think so, Comrade Ryan? Ryan. But he still gave me face and said, politely. After repeating this several times, Ryan stopped talking. He took out a few candies from his pocket. I took a look. Goodness. They were the out-of-print bubble gums from the small store at the school gate that I liked the most. Damn it. Should I take them or not? Not long after we graduated, the manufacturer of this kind of candy went bankrupt. It wasn't until I was sick and took Ryan back to our alma mater, wanting to recall our campus life, that I found that I couldn't buy this kind of candy and had been craving it for many years. Damn it. I still gave in. I tore open the wrapper of a strawberry-flavored candy and ate it quietly. It was still the familiar taste, so sweet. Ryan smiled. After he smiled, he was about to open his mouth to speak again. I quickly tore open a watermelon-flavored one and stuffed it into his mouth. Alas, I'm so smart. With this kind of intelligence, I should go for the palace intrigue script. He was slightly stunned. I said, try blowing a bubble. Funny enough, Ryan couldn't learn to blow bubbles in the past and was laughed at by me for a long time after we got married. Unexpectedly, Ryan chewed it a few times and easily blew out a bubble. Well done, Ryan. You really are different after a short separation. Could it be that you were acting in front of me before? I was shocked. But don't think that I can't deal with you. I clapped my hands and praised, wow. Ryan, you're so amazing. Blow another one. Wow, this bubble is so perfect. Blow another one. Comrade Ryan gradually lost himself in my praises, blowing one bubble after another. Haha, men. Just when Ryan was trying hard to blow the next big bubble, I secretly pinched my face to adjust my expression and said with a smile, Ryan, I have good news for you. I have someone I like. He's in our class. He's a really nice person and I like him very much. With a pop, the bubble burst. Ryan looked at me with a somewhat bewildered expression. After a while, he lowered his head to look at me and said softly, I didn't quite hear what you just said. I said, I have someone I like. I tried my best to show him a bright smile. Ryan didn't make any move for a moment. He seemed to be suddenly paused and was trying hard to digest my words. After a long time, he said, softly. Then he slowly smiled and said, that's nice. Ryan's little finger on his right hand twitched slightly. That was his sign when he was lying. The confession was dealt with, but these days I could still feel that Ryan was looking at me for longer and longer, more and more attentively, as if he hadn't seen me for 8 lifetimes. It seemed that he still hadn't completely let go. After all, it's really hard to break off feelings. I thought about it over and over again. Time and a new love are the most effective tools for this operation. I couldn't afford to wait for time, so a new love was my first choice. I silently turned my head and looked at Lu Yuanyuan not far away. Ryan was like a magnet attracting bees and butterflies. There were countless girls in the whole school who liked Comrade Ryan. Among them, Lu Yuanyuan was definitely among the top. She was a beautiful girl with a good family background, excellent academic performance, gentle, considerate, and good at taking care of people. She was also versatile. Most importantly, I heard in my previous life that she remained unmarried for so many years because she had been silently waiting for Ryan. She was so affectionate. Originally, after I knew about my illness, I wanted to match her up with Ryan but was firmly refused by Ryan. But it's different now. Now everything is in my favor. Sister Yuanyuan, you have a good eye. I'll temporarily entrust such an excellent comrade as Ryan to you. I thought gloomily and felt a bit sour in my heart for a moment. Alas. On the lemon tree are lemon fruits, and under the lemon tree, there's only me left. I was ready to get closer to Lu Yuanyuan first. According to my memory, during the break exercise in a few days, several girls from other classes who were jealous of Lu Yuanyuan would lock her in the toilet and pour water into it from outside the door. This incident was quite a big deal at that time and was later quietly settled. So during the break exercises these days, I closely watched every move of Lu Yuanyuan. Finally, today I saw Lu Yuanyuan walking towards the toilet and several girls following her. I secretly followed them. When I arrived, Lu Yuanyuan had already been locked in the cubicle, helplessly patting the door with a crying voice. Several girls were blocking the door outside, laughing and mocking her. There was a bucket full of water at their feet, as if they were about to pour it in. What was this campus violence? It made my eyes blaze with anger. I quickly took out my prepared mobile phone and recorded for a few seconds and then picked up the mop standing at the door and rushed in, fighting with real feelings and without holding back. Those girls were caught off guard and got into a fight with me. No one was blocking the door, and Lu Yuanyuan came out. Unexpectedly, she didn't run away. She was crying while helping me. The scene was chaotic for a while until we heard a clear angry shout. What are you doing? The female dean of students was standing at the door, glaring at us angrily. Lu Yuanyuan, I, and those girls were taken to the dean's office together. 07 I had asked a classmate to find the dean of students in advance. I calmly showed the video on my mobile phone to the dean of students, and then Lu Yuanyuan explained the whole story clearly. Those girls could only watch helplessly as the evidence was right in front of them and couldn't deny it at all. Considering that I seemed to be injured quite seriously and I was acting bravely for a just cause, the dean of students didn't pursue the matter of my bringing a mobile phone and just gave me a verbal warning before letting me go to the infirmary. As a result, as soon as I walked out of the door, I met Ryan leaning against the corner of the stairs. It was class time now, and only Ryan and I were in the corridor. Without thinking, I knew that my hair must be as messy as a bird's nest now, my clothes were torn in a mess, and there should be many bruises and red marks on my body. My image was really bad. I felt a bit guilty, like a child caught red-handed, and pulled at the corner of my clothes at a loss. In the silence, Ryan slowly walked up to me. He took off his school uniform jacket and put it on me. His movements were very gentle, as if I were some fragile and precious porcelain that would crack if touched. I heard his trembling voice say, "Ivy, could you take good care of yourself?" His voice was choked with sobs, which made my heart tremble. I looked up and saw him staring at the bright scratches and wounds on my hands with such a sad expression. Obviously, the wounds were on me, but it seemed that he was the one who had been beaten up severely. Just with this one glance, my heart ached with surprise. It didn't even hurt this much when I was fighting just now. I couldn't help feeling a bit flustered and forced a smile. "It's okay, Comrade Ryan. It doesn't hurt at all." Their strength was like a cat scratching. "Ryan, why are you as cold-faced as an old man? Smile a little. A smile can make you 10 years younger." Ryan, bye. But no matter how much I tried to act cute and tell jokes, Ryan remained silent all the time. Looking at my pitiful appearance, Ryan was unusually heartless and said coldly, "I won't smile. I'm just not a person who likes to smile by nature." He silently carried me to the infirmary, silently and carefully applied medicine to my wounds, and then silently carried me back. I lay on Ryan's back, staring blankly at the soft light on Ryan's body and hair. The sunlight lazily shone on us, stretching our overlapping shadows very long. Just when I was staring at the shadow and feeling uneasy about Ryan's attitude, suddenly, I found that our shadow stopped. Ryan suddenly stopped in his tracks and turned his head to ask me, "Ivy, who is the person you like?" 08 My eyelids twitched and my brain spun rapidly. In a panic, I blurted out randomly, "Justin." Justin had the honor of sitting in the king's seat beside the podium and desks. He was a typical rascal. He was the #1 delinquent in the class. But he was good-looking and had quite a lot of fangirls. And he had a good relationship with me, even to the level of calling each other brothers. It didn't seem completely unreasonable for me to fall in love with him. After getting a definite answer, Ryan didn't say anything. He looked a bit lonely, slowly turned his head back like an old machine, and continued to carry me on his back. The next day, in order to put on an act, I deliberately went to buy some snacks and gave them to Justin. He had gone to fight somewhere again these 2 days and had a few bruises on his hands. Of course, I had to show my concern and ask him about his well-being at this time. Justin held a pen in his mouth and was flattered by my attentiveness. He said to me in disbelief, "Ivy, is the sun rising in the west today? Are you out of your mind? Is there something wrong with your brain?" With my back to Ryan, I forced a smile and said in a low voice, "Just take them. Don't be so wordy." I quietly glanced at Ryan with my peripheral vision and saw that he was staring straight at us and secretly clenching the pen in his hand. This strange feeling of cheating in front of my husband. According to my understanding of Comrade Ryan, he was a very proud person at heart and surely wouldn't pester a girl who already had someone she liked, especially after seeing this scene with his own eyes. I suppressed the sour feeling in my heart and pretended not to care and continued chatting with Justin. Suddenly, the study committee member walked in and announced, "Classmates, our autumn outing this year is about to start." In an instant, the whole class cheered and there was a lot of noise. I thought to myself, autumn outing. A good opportunity to match up Comrade Ryan and Lu Yuanyuan. Since we had the revolutionary friendship of fighting side by side last time, my relationship with Lu Yuanyuan had improved by leaps and bounds. And I also found that she was really a nice girl. I really regarded her as a good friend. If she and Ryan really got together, I would also sincerely bless them. The destination of this autumn outing was an ancient town, which was a famous scenic spot in the local area. When we set off, as Ryan was the monitor, he was arranged to sit in the front of the bus so that he could count the number of people easily. I sat with Lu Yuanyuan. Just when I was planning to pretend to be carsick and exchange seats with Ryan to let him sit with Lu Yuanyuan and enhance their relationship, Lu Yuanyuan suddenly stood up. She said to Ryan, "Monitor. I'm a bit carsick. Could we exchange seats?" Oh no. I had calculated everything but didn't expect that Lu Yuanyuan would be carsick. Ryan nodded and came over to me. I put on a smile and said, "Hey, sir. Come to have some fun?" Ryan. Ryan remained calm and said casually, "I'm a bit short on money recently. Let's just play for 5 yuan for now." Damn it. Ryan, you've changed. You weren't like this before. The bus started slowly, and the scenery outside the window kept changing. The classmates were chatting noisily. Suddenly, someone proposed to draw lots and tell stories. The mini-program randomly called on classmates. Those who were called racked their brains and came up with all kinds of strange stories, which made everyone laugh heartily. I was laughing so hard that I almost fell over. Then it was my turn to be called. Sure enough, extreme joy begets sorrow. The topic, based on the story in The Little Prince, with the little prince and the fox as the main characters, create a short story that includes the words wailing, regret, and bond. Goodness! These words clearly indicated that it was a sad story. I thought for a while and cleared my throat in the expectant eyes of everyone and said, when the little prince was traveling among the planets in his youth, he met a little fox. After spending a very pleasant time together, they soon separated. Many years later, the little prince remembered the little fox he had accidentally met a long, long time ago and had formed a bond with. He wanted to know how the little fox was doing, so he set off to look for the fox. But when the little prince returned to that planet, he only saw the old and feeble fox. The little prince found that the bond formed during the few short months when he accompanied the little fox had made the little fox wait for him painfully all its life. The little prince hugged the fox and wailed. He regretted it. He shouldn't have intervened in the life of a fox so easily. He tamed the fox but then left it. How he wished that they had never met in the first place. After the story was told, comments came one after another in the carriage. Wow! The little fox is so pitiful. Hugs, sister. Don't meet again. What a pity. In this story, the little prince seems so heartless. I'm so tired of love. Oh, what a sharp knife. I sat back in my seat and said to Ryan with a smile, I told it well, right? Praise me quickly. Praise me quickly. Ryan seemed a bit sad after hearing it too, but seeing my cheerful appearance, he smiled in his eyes and clapped his hands, saying, it's very good. However, maybe the little fox was willing. If it could start over, the little fox would still make the same choice. I grinned and said, but if they hadn't met, the little fox could have lived a happy life. Why did it have to meet the little prince and start suffering? Ryan, do you know? In our future, you were truly happy for only a few scattered years. When I was sick, you alone bore the expensive medical expenses and the heavy burden of the family. You even gave up your career when you had a bright future just to take care of me. After I passed away, when my soul hadn't completely dissipated yet, I watched helplessly as you stayed in front of my tombstone, lived in the shadow of my death and spent year after year in pain. You could have had a happy and complete family and a joyful and enviable life. But the rest of your life was spent mourning my death. Even God felt sorry for you and gave you a chance to choose again in this life. I've already delayed you for a lifetime. I can't be so greedy as to think about delaying you for another lifetime. I pretended to be sleepy and closed my eyes, leaning on the chair. Ryan, at least this time, I must make sure that you get happiness. By then, I might have become a passerby in your world. I will silently watch you walk towards a bright future, watch you have new feelings of love, watch you build a wonderful family, and then die with a smile and peace in my heart. And you don't need to think of me. You just need to move forward and never look back. 10 before I knew it, I fell asleep on the bus. When I got off the bus, I saw that the classmates in the class were looking at me with a bit of a smile in their eyes. Justin quietly walked up to me and gave me a thumbs up. Ivy, you're amazing. Me? You fell asleep on the bus just now and kept hugging Ryan's arm and calling him husband, crying and shouting at the same time. Me? Help. This is a big problem. Justin continued to add details. Ryan's ears were so red. He coaxed you for a long time before you fell asleep peacefully. I thought to myself that's why Ryan's ears were so red. I was being so naughty to him. I almost couldn't catch my breath. I was so ashamed that I wished I could find a crack to hide in. Lu Yuanyuan came over to comfort me and said, Ivy, it's okay. It was just a dream. Everyone gathered together and listened to the tour guide introduce the basic culture of the ancient town for a while. Then we were allowed to form groups of 4 and tour around by ourselves. I, Lu Yuanyuan, Ryan, and Justin successfully formed a group. Help! What a love triangle. The scenery of the ancient town was beautiful and full of ancient charm. There were many ancient-style elements decorated everywhere. There were many characteristic ethnic shops and stalls on both sides, with a strong cultural atmosphere. Along the way, Lu Yuanyuan pulled me along, chatting and laughing in the front, while Justin and Ryan followed behind silently. Suddenly, Lu Yuanyuan excitedly pulled me to a small stall. I took a closer look. It said "wish bags" on the stall. There was a line of small characters written with a Chinese brush below, all your wishes will come true. On the stall were rows of small, exquisite, and lovely round silk bags the size of a thumb. They had various colors, and the word "wish" was delicately embroidered on them. They were extremely exquisite. The boss greeted us enthusiastically. Since the price was not high and it was hard to decline his warm invitation, we each bought one. The boss beamed and took out paper and pens and introduced, "Write your blessings in this bag and hang it on your mobile phone, and they will surely come true. Having good hopes leads to good days." I had an idea and proposed, "Since we're gathered here together, it means we're fated. Why don't we write blessings for each other?" Everyone readily agreed. Lu Yuanyuan's face turned a bit red for some reason. I winked at Justin and said, "Justin, come on, let's write for each other." Justin, "No. I somehow feel a chill on my back. It's a bit scary." Me. "Of course, I couldn't tell you that it was because Ryan was staring at you coldly." Suddenly, Justin said, "Classmate Lu Yuanyuan, shall we write for each other?" Lu Yuanyuan didn't hesitate and immediately agreed, "Okay." I was confused. "Honey, this is a great opportunity for you to enhance your relationship with Ryan." At this time, Ryan slowly pulled me over and said calmly, "Ivy, let's write for each other." Remembering the look in Comrade Ryan's eyes just now, I silently backed down and quickly nodded in agreement. The boss handed us small pieces of paper and fountain pens with a smile. I picked up the pen and hesitated for a moment. When I was on my deathbed in my previous life, I said to Ryan, "Ryan, I really hope that we can grow old together and live a long life." Now, after thinking for a while, I wrote solemnly on the piece of paper, stroke by stroke, "Wish Comrade Ryan a happy marriage, a smooth life, and a carefree life full of happiness." The black ink soaked into the paper. I carefully rolled up the piece of paper, put it in the bag, and exchanged it with Ryan. Then I carefully hung the wish bag that Ryan gave me on my mobile phone. There were so many novel things in the ancient town. Later, Lu Yuanyuan and I directly entered the shopping spree mode. Ryan and Justin helped us carry big and small bags behind us without complaint. And as a result of such indulgence, as soon as I got on the bus back, I was exhausted and fell asleep, sleeping on Ryan's shoulder until we got back to school. Fortunately, I didn't say any nonsense this time. Who would have thought that the really exciting part was yet to come? 11. The happiness of the autumn outing was always short-lived, while the pressure of study was eternal. I bit the end of my pen, feeling helpless in front of the exercise questions. After so many years, the knowledge of high school had long been returned to the teachers. I took the exercise questions and asked Justin for help. Justin rolled his eyes, "Come on, sister. Look at my king's seat, okay? Why don't you go to the top student Ryan?" Me. "I specifically came to you when Ryan was called to the teacher's office." Justin sighed, "You and Ryan, the top student, have been acting really strange recently. If you want to avoid him, then go to Yuanyuan." Calling me sister and calling others Yuanyuan, huh? I suddenly realized. Oh right, how could I forget Sister Yuanyuan? I immediately planned to abandon Justin. Who knew that he also took an exercise book and said, "I also have questions to ask." Seeing my disbelieving look, he said shyly and awkwardly, "What's wrong? Just because you can work hard doesn't mean I can't make progress." Me, hee hee. "Men, you're really acting strange. We came to Lu Yuanyuan's seat together. Who knew that when Lu Yuanyuan saw us coming, she directly covered her face?" Seeing her abnormal behavior, I didn't understand and asked, "Yuanyuan? What's wrong with you? Are you feeling unwell?" When Justin heard it, his tone also became a bit anxious. "What's wrong? Where don't you feel well? Do you need to go to the infirmary?" The moment he spoke, cheers immediately rose around. The study committee member explained, Lu Yuanyuan chose the dare option in Truth or Dare. She has to hug the first opposite-sex person who talks to her for 10 seconds. Haha. Recently, the classmates in the class were obsessed with playing Truth or Dare, which was fast, simple, and exciting. During the break, people would form groups to play it, and there were constant laughter. All of a sudden, Justin's face turned red and he stammered, Is that so?" Lu Yuanyuan almost shrank into an ostrich. The classmates started to cheer. At the critical moment, Justin stiffly bent down, looking as if he was going to face death, gently hugged Lu Yuanyuan, and then said, okay, I'm in a hurry to go to the toilet. Let's end it here." Looking at his figure fleeing in a hurry, I sneered. Justin, usually so cocky, but he couldn't handle it at the critical moment. The classmates wanted to set up another round. Lu Yuanyuan slowly raised her head, her face red, and said, "I quit. You guys continue playing. Oh, we're having so much fun. Keep playing, Yuanyuan. Forget it. Look at how shy Yuanyuan is. Don't force her. Why don't we find someone to play for her? Otherwise, it won't be fun with fewer people. Hey, Ivy, do you want to play?" I was just about to refuse when Lu Yuanyuan pulled at the corner of my clothes and looked at me pitifully. Me, okay then. I joined the game instead of Lu Yuan. A pen was placed on the ground. Whoever it pointed to would be the unlucky one. The first few rounds were thrilling but okay. But you can't always be lucky when you take risks. The tip of the pen still pointed at me. I calmly said, I choose dare. Truth was never an option for me. I drew a card, confess your love to your deskmate with 10 affectionate sentences. I thought to myself, is it too late for me to quit now? 12 I silently prayed that Ryan would come back later. It would be best if the teacher kept him in the office until after class. Who knew that Ryan appeared at the classroom door a few minutes before class? The news of the dare in Truth or Dare had spread throughout the class. As soon as the main character showed up, the whole class immediately fell silent. I was so nervous that I stood up from my seat all of a sudden. I felt my heart beating faster and faster, as if thousands of people were beating drums vigorously in my heart. The drum beats were rapid and the sound was earth-shattering. It was also like countless birds swiftly skimming over the sea surface, all rushing towards the high sky, and then a huge tsunami rushed towards me and submerged me. I was floating and sinking in the sea, having difficulty breathing. In the silence, Ryan walked towards me. I was a bit dazed, as if I saw his figure overlapping with that of college Ryan when we were together years later, that of Ryan in the wedding dress when we got married, and that of Ryan who took off his coat after work and walked towards me with a gentle smile. Finally, Ryan came to me. He asked softly, Ivy, why is your face so red? Was my face red? I reacted slowly and felt that my face seemed to be burning. It's okay. It's just confessing my love to my husband again. Damn it, it's impossible to be okay at all. I swallowed hard and tried to pinch my fingers behind my back to keep myself calm. I said in a trembling voice, Comrade Ryan. He gently said, I slightly lowered my head, trying to make myself look calm, but my voice still trembled involuntarily. I like you. I like you very much. I especially like you. I super like you. I like you the most. In this world, I like you the most. I like you the very most. I like you the very, very most. I like you the very, very, very most. I really, really like you so much. I didn't know if my voice was choked. I just felt that while I was speaking, my emotions were mixed with excitement, eagerness, sadness, and sorrow. I could only try to keep my expression normal and my tone steady. The surging love was about to submerge me. My feelings were deafening, but they could only be hidden under the pretext of a joke. I could only use the simplest sentences to cover up the love that once truly existed and that only I knew now and that had spread throughout my life. The whole class was in an uproar. Whistles, cheers, and applause mingled together, rising to the sky and lasting for a long time. Just then, I heard Ryan's gentle voice, firm and clear, coming over. I like you too. My heart trembled and I suddenly raised my head, meeting his clear eyes that were looking at me. Only my figure was reflected in them. The class bell rang timely and drowned out his voice. This was a confession that only the two of us heard. Throughout the class, I couldn't calm down for a long time. Looking at Ryan beside me, however, he was extremely serious during the class. He took neat and tidy notes, which made me feel both gratified and a bit indignant. Just when I thought this matter had passed quietly and I wanted to quickly flee from my seat after class, Ryan grabbed me. Ryan, where are you going? Me, to ask a question. Ryan, ask me. Me, oh, I suddenly want to go to the toilet again. Ryan, I'll accompany you. Damn it. Since he had said that, there was no way to avoid it anymore. I resigned myself to sitting in my seat honestly. Ryan looked at me and said slowly, did you hear what I said just now? I still wanted to play dumb. What words? I mean what I said that I heard it. I hurriedly replied. My heart, which had just calmed down, couldn't afford to beat that fast again. Ryan looked at me quietly. What's your opinion then? I said with difficulty, Ryan, I already have someone I like. What I said just now was, because I lost in Truth or Dare. I don't mind. You like him, and I like you. Ryan's tone was relaxed, as if he was just saying that the weather was really nice today. Only his little finger on his right hand twitched violently. If I say that I've always regarded you as a buddy, Ryan? Ryan's smile froze on his face. Ryan, why are you being so humble? I felt a pang in my heart and wished I could tear myself apart. I forced a smile and said, Ryan, think about it. There are so many girls who like you. Why are you so fixated on one person? You can't give up the whole forest for just one tree. Ryan shook his head, looked straight at me, and there was even a bit of pleading in his tone. They're all nice, but none of them is you. Alas, what do you like about me? Look at me. I'm noisy, restless, and have a bad temper. Ryan interrupted me and said firmly and indisputably, you're good in every way. I won't choose them. I'll only choose you. I clenched my hands, lowered my head, and my fingernails dug into my flesh bit by bit. Finally, I said softly, but I won't fall in love with you. You're not my type. Ryan's face turned pale in an instant. He tried to force a smile, but that smile was like a candle, struggling to give out a weak light in the wind and rain, on the verge of going out. I can wait for you. Just remember that I like you. And don't take this as a burden. I just think that it's enough as long as I can be by your side. I really won't disturb you at all, really. You can think of me whenever you want. With his eyes red, he said gently and cautiously, okay? Looking at his ingratiating smile and his hands that were trembling unconsciously, I felt extremely sad in my heart. Ryan, how could I be so cruel as to say no? If only I didn't have the genetic disease and could accompany you through life healthily, how nice it would be. Pain spread between us and burned us both at the same time. This conversation ended up hurting both of us. Just then, Lu Yuanyuan came over and rescued me. She looked embarrassed and said, Ivy, I want to ask you for a favor. Lu Yuanyuan took me to the rooftop. Yuanyuan, do you mean you like Justin? Lu Yuanyuan hurriedly gestured, Ivy, keep your voice down. I quickly covered my mouth and met Lu Yuanyuan's eyes that were avoiding shyness. I felt dizzy. No, the plot isn't going right. Honey, what about your determination to marry only Ryan and your deep affection for him? I thought I was helping to match a good relationship. It turns out that I was actually breaking up a couple. Thinking about Justin's usually rude and casual appearance and Lu Yuanyuan's gentle and peaceful, delicate and charming look, I was shocked and said, Yuanyuan, what do you like about him? Yuanyuan said in a low voice, Ivy, do you remember those girls who bullied me before? Not long after that incident happened, I accidentally saw Justin threatening them, telling them to behave themselves and not to hurt me again. He looked so cute when he was fierce. After saying that, she laughed softly, looking like a little girl in love. I fell silent. Justin didn't seem like the kind of person who would meddle in other people's business everywhere. Could it be that they actually had a mutual secret crush? Moreover, in my previous life, the matter of Lu Yuanyuan being bullied was also quietly resolved. Could it also be related to Justin? By the way, I remembered that I didn't seem to have heard the news of Justin getting married in my previous life either. I felt like I had uncovered a big secret from my previous life. But it seems that he doesn't like me. The corners of Lu Yuanyuan's eyes slowly turned red. He didn't even want to hug me for a while longer today. Does he perhaps actually hate me? Maybe he stood up for me just because we're classmates. Oh no, the pretty girl is going to cry. I hurriedly said, no. He's not blind. How could he not like such a cute girl like you? What if he really doesn't like me? Then he's really blind. Lu Yuanyuan, woo-woo. Lu Yuanyuan wiped away her tears and said, I want to ask him out and ask him, but I'm afraid he won't agree if it's just me. Ivy, could you come with Ryan? Me, it's a bit reluctant. Lu Yuanyuan, with pitiful and expectant eyes. Okay, for the sake of my sister, it's not impossible. 3 days later, I, Lu Yuanyuan, Ryan, and Justin were standing at the entrance of the amusement park. It was the familiar situation and the familiar love triangle. Only the relationship among the people was quite different. When playing the roller coaster, Lu Yuanyuan, Justin, ha 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 ha. Me, woohoo, Ryan. When playing in the haunted house, Justin, woo woo woo. Don't scare me anymore. Please. Lu Yuanyuan, these are all fake. Don't be afraid. Me, these are just child's play. It's not exciting enough. There could be some more blood here, and a fake corpse could be hung there, blah blah blah. Ryan, Ivy, don't run around everywhere. Be careful not to get lost. When playing the escape room, Lu Yuanyuan, the props are so hard to find. Justin, where is this clue? Where is that clue? Me, my brain isn't enough. Help. Someone help me, woo. Ryan, I'll help. Before we knew it, it was evening. Halloween was coming soon, and the amusement park had a strong festive atmosphere. There were pumpkin lanterns, skeletons, and other Halloween decorations everywhere, and various NPCs and performances were arranged. Justin and Lu Yuanyuan were having a great time and wanted to watch one more performance before going back. She quietly winked at me. I understood what she meant and pulled Ryan out, leaving them time alone. There were an endless stream of people coming and going on the street. There were men and women with makeup everywhere, and all kinds of strange ghosts were wandering on the street. Ryan and I walked aimlessly in the cold wind. Suddenly, I was attracted by the star-shaped lamp held in the hands of a girl coming towards us. The palm-sized three-dimensional star was emitting a warm and soft light between her hands. In the dark, it really looked like she was holding a gentle little star. Ryan followed my gaze and saw the lamp. He looked around, fixed his eyes on a place, and pointed to a small stall on the right street and said, it seems to be bought there. There was a crowd of people over there. Ryan said to me, wait for me here. I'll go and buy it for you. I obediently stood where I was and watched him Tinanda make his way into the crowd. His white down jacket and handsome face were particularly conspicuous in the crowd. While he was paying, a girl dressed as an elf approached him with a smile. She had a bright smile on her face and gestured something to Ryan. She was bright and energetic, full of vitality. Ryan seemed to smile and said something to her. Many people couldn't help looking at them. After all, they were a handsome guy and a beautiful girl, and the picture of them together was particularly harmonious. I quietly watched this scene, thought for a while, and sent Ryan a message. Ryan, I want to wander around alone. Don't worry about me. I thought that since Yuan had someone she liked, Ryan should get in touch with other girls more. I wandered around randomly and accidentally walked back to the place where Yuan and Justin were watching the performance. Unexpectedly, in just a short while, their hands were already held together at this time. Seeing me coming, Yuan hurriedly let go of her hand. Me, sorry for disturbing you. Seeing that I was about to turn around and leave, Yuan immediately ran over to stop me. Me, I didn't see anything. Yuan, it doesn't matter if you saw it. I confessed my love to Justin and he agreed immediately. He was as happy as a fool. I also laughed and said, really? Congratulations, Yuan. Young people nowadays really move fast. Yuan's eyes were full of smiles. Suddenly, she said to me, Ivy, you should hurry up too. Me? I sincerely wish you and Ryan well. I gave an awkward smile and was just about to speak when Yuan made a shush gesture and whispered, Ivy, don't worry. Ryan definitely likes you. Remember that autumn outing? Do you remember that Justin was sitting behind you too on the bus? He told me personally that after you fell asleep on the bus, you talked in your sleep, pulling Ryan's hand and asking him, husband, what's our child's name? Ryan said very gently, let's call it Yuan, the Yuan that means reunion. Look, he's even thought of the child's name. After that, I couldn't hear what Yuan said anymore. It was as if I was suddenly struck by a bolt of lightning from the sky and froze on the spot. The world in front of me seemed to be shaking in a daze. I saw the original scene through time. Husband, what's our child's name? I was lying on the hospital bed and asked Ryan, who was leaning on my belly listening to the fetal movement. Ryan gently stroked my belly and said with a smile, let's call it Yuan, the Yuan that means reunion. Our family will live a good life together. It seemed that my oxygen was taken away in an instant. I was breathing hard with difficulty. Suddenly, I saw the wish bag tied to my mobile phone. Intuition told me that the truth of everything was here. All the absurd doubts and speculations in my heart at present could be answered the moment I opened this. I trembled and slowly opened the mouth of the bag and took out the small piece of paper. Because my hands were shaking so much, the piece of paper fell to the ground several times. I squatted down to pick it up and unfolded it bit by bit. Ryan's clear and neat handwriting came into view. I hope to grow old with Ivy and live a long life together. This was my last wish before I died. This wasn't a wish that the current Ryan should have known. Suddenly, tears rushed up uncontrollably. I stood up and rushed out, and my tears blurred my vision. Scenes flashed before my eyes, the bubble gum that Ryan gave me and that I had been longing for, the bubbles that he suddenly learned to blow, his always focused gaze, the sadness when he looked at my wounds, the sadness when he listened to the story of the little prince. Ivy, could you take good care of yourself? They're all nice, but they're not you. I like you too. I don't mind. You like him, I like you. I just think that it's enough as long as I can be by your side. I really won't disturb you at all, really. You can think of me whenever you want. Okay? However, maybe the little fox was willing. If it could start over, the little fox would still make the same choice. I ran until I was exhausted and out of breath, but I used all my strength and ran forward recklessly. Ryan's figure appeared in front of me. He was standing alone in the crowd, holding the bright star-shaped lamp in his hands, waiting persistently at the place where he asked me to wait for him. I rushed into his arms, and tears streamed down my face. Ryan was startled and hurriedly and flusteredly asked me what was wrong and what had happened. I pressed his head and kissed him passionately in my tears. He was stunned for a moment, and then a more passionate kiss came from him. He hugged me with a strength as if he wanted to integrate me into his bones and blood. I said, husband, we'll never be apart again. Something cold dropped on my face. It was Ryan's tears. Like a child, he burst into tears at this moment. Yes, wife. Extra, previous life when I was in the 4th grade of primary school, new neighbors moved in next door. A young couple let a fair, delicate, and handsome little boy about my age into their new home. At that time, I stood at the door curiously looking around. When I saw that the big cardboard box the boy was carrying was about to fall, I quickly rushed over and helped him steady it. I looked into the eyes of the boy behind the box unexpectedly and gave him a sweet smile. The beautiful woman beside him breathed a sigh of relief, freed one hand to wipe the sweat on her forehead, and smiled at me kindly. Oh, little sister, thank you so much. She said gently to the little boy, Ryan, hurry up and thank her. Was his name Ryan? I stared at him intently and couldn't help thinking that he was really fair-skinned. Unexpectedly, Ryan quickly put away the surprise on his face, looking distant and cold, and said faintly, "Thank you." The woman showed a disappointed expression, but still smiled and comforted me. "Little sister, Ryan didn't mean it. Don't blame him." Later, I learned that 3 months before moving, Ryan witnessed his grandmother, whom he loved the most, being hit and killed on the road not far from home by a drunk driver. This tragedy hit Ryan hard. Since then, Ryan was no longer willing to get close to outsiders. And Ryan's parents moved to let Ryan get away from that environment and bury that memory. But I didn't know all of this at that time. I just thought, wow, he's so cool and aloof. And he's really good looking. As a young child, how could I resist the temptation of good looks? I put on a big smile and didn't care, saying, "It's okay. He's so cool. He's different from anyone I've ever seen." Ryan's mother said cheerfully, "Really? Then come to play with Ryan more often. I hope you can become good friends." Ryan's gentle and refined father also smiled and asked softly, "Little sister, what's your name?" I raised my head and said, "Ivy." I became a frequent visitor to Ryan's family. My mother, who was single, always had a lot of difficulties raising me alone. Ryan's parents were very understanding of my mother's hardships. So whenever my mother couldn't take care of me, they would always warmly invite me to their home. As time passed, our two families naturally became familiar with each other. Ryan and I also naturally became classmates. After all, there was only the primary school where I studied nearby. Fortunately, Ryan was assigned to our class just as I had prayed. Ryan's cold and aloof personality at that time made countless classmates hesitant to approach him, and they talked about him a lot. Fortunately, I was talkative and thick-skinned. I stayed by Ryan's side regardless of the strange looks from others. I knew that Ryan's aunt and uncle hoped that Ryan could have friends. I also hoped that through my actions, I could help Ryan become a bit more cheerful and repay them even just a little. Besides, I liked Ryan very much too. On the way to and from school, Ryan walked silently while I kept talking. When we did homework together, I would gently ask him questions when I encountered problems I couldn't solve. When the boys in the class dared to provoke Ryan, I would fight back fiercely. When my mother bought me new snacks, I would also give a portion to Ryan. Time seemed to pass quickly. Suddenly one day, Ryan asked me, "What's the point of you doing this?" I was puzzled and said, "The point?" Ryan said quietly, "People might leave suddenly and forever in a certain moment, just like my grandma." Ryan was always a smart child. When he was little, grandma's little darling, his grandma, who would say this kindly while touching his head and giving him snacks, left so suddenly without any warning. He knelt beside his bleeding grandma, crying his heart out, shouting again and again, "Grandma, wake up. Wake up." But he clearly knew that grandma would never wake up again. What about the other people around him? If he built deep emotions time and time again, only to part again and again and experience that kind of sadness over and over, what was the point? It was too painful. He didn't want that. He was too precocious and had to face the pain of separation and death at an early age. Yet he was still too young and didn't know how to deal with all this. I didn't understand why Ryan asked this question. But I thought I should respond to him, or else he would be so embarrassed. So I said, "Well, my dad has left me forever. He was a policeman and died in the line of duty when my mom was still pregnant with me. Although I know it's impossible, I always fantasize that it would be nice if I could meet my dad once. This meeting wouldn't change anything and probably doesn't mean much either. Anyway, my dad has passed away. All I can do is take good care of my mom for my dad, study hard, and take her to enjoy good food and have fun in the future." "Oh, why think so much? Just cherish the present." "Well, if you're sad about your grandma's passing, then I'll accompany you. I should be able to live for a long, long time, right?" I said a lot, but Ryan didn't say anything in the end. However, the layer of coldness that had lingered in Ryan's heart for a long time gradually faded away. At that time, Ryan wondered if there were some people who would still want to meet even knowing the ending. He thought that he and Ivy could go a long way and be together for a long time. But it seemed that time flew by quickly and hardships hit unexpectedly. The joy when the confession was successful, the sweetness and reluctance during the passionate love, the precious promises when getting married, the understanding and cooperation when jointly running the family, all the beautiful days were still vivid in his mind, which made the diagnosis certificate seem especially bitter. He was a doctor and clearly knew how incurable Ivy's disease was. Originally, he wanted to become a doctor to reduce some of the grief in the world caused by helplessness in the face of illness and separation by death. He had saved many people. Ironically, precisely because he was a doctor, he was now more clearly aware of the fact that his beloved was about to die at a young age like a flower. For countless days and nights, he read countless materials and secretly visited countless famous doctors with Ivy's medical records. Obviously, the result was clear, but he tried to overthrow all his learned knowledge, just hoping for a slim chance of survival for his lover. And his Ivy finally fell into a deep sleep with their child during the first snowfall and never woke up. The vast world was covered in white. People were cheering for the auspicious snow, but his world lost its color from then on. Later, Ryan huddled in front of Ivy's tomb in the heavy snow, rested his head on the cold tombstone, and murmured softly, "Didn't you say you would accompany me for a long, long time? Ivy, you liar." It turned out that it was true. Every scene makes one miss the person, yet they seem so far away from each other. Ryan wondered countless times if there would be a different story for them in the afterlife. If he could see Ivy again. If only there were an if. Ryan's eyelids gradually became heavy. The snow fell on him one after another. Wearily, he closed his eyes. "Now, everyone solve this problem. I'll give you 5 minutes." The energetic voice came to his ears. Ryan suddenly opened his eyes. He looked up in a daze. On the podium stood the stern math teacher, and in front of him was a high school exercise book. The classmates in sight were all writing vigorously. It was quiet all around. Everything was so real that it didn't seem like an illusion. Ryan could only hear his own noisy heartbeat. He stiffened his body, as if afraid of waking up from a beautiful dream, and stared rigidly at the math problem in front of him. If it was high school now, then the person sitting beside him should be Ivy. His eyes suddenly became moist. He took a few deep breaths quietly, suppressing his trembling body. It seemed like a century had passed before he slowly turned his head and just met the bright eyes of the girl beside him. Those eyes that he hadn't seen for a long time were clear and focused, looking at him. For a moment, Ryan wanted to hug her tightly, but he was so excited that he fell off the chair instead. Bang! Laughter broke out all around, and the classroom atmosphere suddenly became lively. There were concerned inquiries from classmates and the teacher, but Ryan seemed to hear nothing. Those voices seemed so far away from him. He only saw Ivy smiling brightly. "Ryan, am I that scary? Extra, this life, what? Doctor, you mean there's no way I could have ALS? Say it again, please?" I widened my eyes in disbelief, looking at the female doctor in front of me with a mixture of surprise and joy. The female doctor said impatiently, "Classmate, you've asked too many times. We have professional medical equipment and doctors. If you don't believe it, you can go to other hospitals for another check, but I'm sure the result will be the same." She sighed and said, "Classmate, do you think you're drawing a blind box? ALS doesn't come that easily." When Ryan led me out of the hospital, I was still in a daze. Ryan gently shook my hand and said, "Come back to your senses." I said blankly, "Ryan, how is this possible? Could it be that we not only traveled through time but also completely changed? Or do we have some superpowers? This world is so mysterious." Ryan shook his head and said, "I'm not sure either. Maybe we've come to a parallel world, and you don't have the genetic disease in this world. Or perhaps it's some other mystery of the universe. Anyway, this might be something beyond our understanding." He smiled and said, "But anyway, it's a good thing for us. We should cherish the present." I nodded vigorously and said, "You're right." We walked on a sparsely populated path. There were large areas of ginkgo trees planted on both sides of the road, and the ground was golden. Looking at the beautiful scenery in front of me, I was in a great mood and didn't bother to think about complicated things. I started to look forward and said, "Wow. Ryan," I suddenly thought, "do you think the college entrance examination questions in this world will be the same as ours before? If so, we'll be so lucky. But I can't remember too much either. Do you still remember? I'm so regretful. I should have paid more attention to lottery information in my previous life. Otherwise, I might be able to win hundreds of millions now. Then I could just lie flat for the rest of my life." Ryan, do you still want to be a doctor in this life? Do you want to try other professions? Anyway, I definitely won't choose the major I chose last year. It's like repeating high school. I must change it. Ryan. I kept talking, and Ryan held my hand and listened quietly beside me. "Ryan, answer honestly. Were you jealous when I said I liked Justin?" I leaned against his arm, blinking my eyes and asking him. Ryan flicked my forehead, coughed lightly, and looked away, saying, "No, I wasn't." I was dissatisfied and said, "Really? Really? Really? I'm so sad." Ryan smiled gently and coughed again. "Okay, a little bit. Just a little bit? I'm still so sad." I suddenly pulled my hand back and snorted heavily. Ryan stopped walking, looked around, and seeing no one around, he suddenly pulled me into his arms and kissed me. I obediently hugged him and endured this gentle and lingering kiss. It seemed that the wind blew, and the ginkgo leaves fluttered down one after another. When we separated, several leaves had fallen on our heads. We smiled and brushed the leaves off each other's heads, then held hands and walked forward again. Ryan looked at my red ears and said with a smile, "We're an old married couple, yet your ears still turn red after a kiss." I retorted dissatisfiedly, "We're an old married couple, yet you still dare not admit being jealous." Ryan said with a smile, "Okay, I was really jealous. But at that time, he thought that even if Ivy really fell in love with someone else, it would be okay if he just quietly stayed by her side." He was just afraid that the person wouldn't treat Ivy well and would let her down. He was also afraid that the person wouldn't know how to take good care of Ivy when she was sick and would abandon or hurt her after she got sick. When his treasure was in someone else's hands, he would always be on tenterhooks, worried that it might be accidentally damaged. He always felt that it was better for him to guard it. Fortunately, it was still him who was staying by her side now. The road stretched ahead. They also had a long way to go in the rest of their lives. Ivy suddenly saw an orange kitten in front of her. She immediately ran over with shining eyes, squatted down, smiled foolishly, and said softly, "Hee hee, cute kitten, why are you here alone? You might easily meet a strange sister like me." The big orange cat meowed coquettishly and lazily rubbed against Ivy's legs, which made Ivy excitedly shout to Ryan, "Ah, Ryan, it's so cute." Ryan watched this scene from a distance. His heart felt warm, and a gentle feeling like a trickle of water lingered in his heart. Ivy smiled and waved to Ryan, shouting, "Ryan, come quickly." Ryan smiled gently and walked towards her, saying softly, "Okay, I'm coming." No matter how time changes and past events evolve, the little fox will always wait for that person to come back. Just like them. As long as she's there, he will always walk towards her. The end.